I was looking at the word atom, which I know from previous is similar to atom or Adam or even aten. So I started looking at atoms and came across ions and cations and anions. It seems with a lot of words you simply replace a letter to get another word. With atom we change 2 letters to get atom, and also the same amount with Adam and atem. Ion changed to I am. The image of an ion also looks like the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son and the Holy Spirit, the 3 points of a triangle. The funny thing about cells, there are many cells, and comparing them to humans, people might say, if we are all cells, why are we so different? Well, within the body, there are many cells, but after generation they become specialised. They undergo something called differential gene expression. This process allows cells to become specialised as their structure determines their function. The process begins when a stimulus acts on an unspecialised cell, a cell that has potential to become any cell in the body, a multipotent stem cell. And this is where you get the saying, you can become anything. This is where we see the variety in the world. We all start as neutral until we become specialised in something and play a role in the higher organism. Everything has a counterpart on the earth. An ion is an atom or molecule with an electric charge. It seems an atom has the ability to turn into an ion, an atom that changes into an I am. This on our level may be a form of personality growth, the becoming of an I, the I am. The atom, the smallest unit of ordinary matter, is present in all things. Every solid, liquid, gas and plasma is composed of neutral or ionised atoms or atoms. It's quite apparent from the creation story we have, they're all based around the atom and the beginnings of life, analysed into real people. This is a point that can be argued, but when you think about how many creation stories across time and culture are similar yet different, how did this happen? Were there lots of Jesus-like figures with different names? Maybe, but most likely the story of the atom has changed into something which fitted within their culture, or following a similar story because they are following the same story. In some senses it can be confusing for what I'm talking about because I'm working on different scales. For example, we have the atom within us. We have us humans, which could be seen as a bigger atom. We have the world, which could be seen as an atom. And then we have a universe that could be seen as an atom. It may go further either way, but we do not know this. The principles of an atom are true at the atomic level, the human level, the world, and universal. On one, we are within an atom or atom. On another, we have atoms within us. And another, we are ourselves an atom or atom. I am or ion, which is similar to lion, which could give you 12 ions. L is the 12th letter of the alphabet. 12 is key in the makeup of our existence. Also looking at ion, we have icons, which is ions with an added C. People become icons, which are ions. It states the strong electric field of ions makes them strongly attracted to other atoms and molecules to the point they become reactive. Ions are more stable than atoms. This could be compared to fame. When someone has become famous or iconic, people are more attracted to them. We are told Adam was a neutron or neutral. He was lonely, presumably because man contained both masculine and feminine charge, giving man an overall neutral charge and rendering man unable to fully or meaningfully interact with anything charged. By this way, it implies that God, whose image Adam, the neutron, was created, also has a neutral, neither positive nor negative charge. And then God transformed Adam from a neutron to a proton, and we have the story of Eve. If Atom is Adam, who is Eve? As you may notice from the story of Shiva, that Shiva came from the side of Vishnu, while the Bible mentions that Eve came from the side of Adam. When you remove an electron from an atom, you create energy. Eve is the electromagnetic wave energy. It is within her name, Ave or Eve, like Avery. This is also linking to Jesus as he was stabbed in his side. This would be the same scenario as Eve, the removal of an electron. making it become positively charged. On the other hand, the addition of an electron makes the atom become negatively charged. This reminds me of good and evil, positive and negative, but in terms of science, this is generally passive and active. Normally the passive being negative and the active being positive. This is something that can be seen as reversed, as peace is passive and aggression is forceful. In the Bible, Eve sinned by eating the forbidden fruit. Eve is the same as electromagnetic wave. Look no further than the sine wave as the sin of Eve or the sin of Eve. The Star of David seems to be a union of the micro and macrocosm, as you can see in the interlinking triangles. A word that comes from Eve is evening, when the day goes from light to night to dark. Another word that comes from Eve is evil, which is not really evil, it meant removing Adam from his neutral state. Also, in relation to the Bible, it can talk about the killing armies of 10,000, the raping of daughters, destroying of cities, taking of slaves. Those actions could be compared to the human immune system. Electrodes consist of two main points known as a cathode and an anode, which basically describe the direction or the flow of the current. Now, cathodes and anodes will be covered later. For me, looking at them straight away, I see cathodes as similar to cathedrals and anodes similar to nodes such as Stonehenge. Two different types of energy, one seen as female and male, positive and negative, one dealing with the natural properties of the earth such as wood and stone, the other dealing with metals. But these are only one aspect of many, as that they are just two opposing forces such as Cain and Abel. Back to atoms, obviously I said I'm not a scientist at all, but there's something with hydrogen which reminds me of a dragon. And a hydrogen is the only state with no neutron. Hydrogen is also associated with the neutralization process of an ion, which for me would be the clean slate, the gaining of an ego, or the losing of an electron, or the gaining of one, and then back to a clean state, from a neutral to a positive, back again to a neutral. This is just as water is associated heavily with Jesus. Within electrons you have some atomic particles, and just quickly again, their names are protons, neutrons, mesons, and a few other names. Meson reminds me of Mason. Masons I see as almost cults or groupings of the worlds that follow a particular format or set of rules, collection of atoms. A cation is a positively charged ion with fewer electrons and protons, while an anion is a negatively charged ion with more electrons. Now, cations, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong by the way, apologies, remind me of nations on our level, while anions remind me of unions. Opposite electrical charges are pulled towards another by an electrostatic force, so cations and anions attract each other and readily form ionic compounds. And isn't it funny how often nations and unions are attracted to each other and make agreements or pacts and treaties? Tunnel ionization is ionization due to quantum tunneling, and it talks about an electron travelling through a barrier and the potential width of that barrier. An electron with a higher energy can make it further up the potential barrier, giving it a much greater chance of success. This reminds me of birth and the sperm's journey to the egg, which is an extremely difficult challenge, but the sperm needs enough energy to make it past the barriers to the egg. Back to cations and anions, the difference between them. The main differences are cations are described as positives and have a cathode and metal atoms. An anion is negative, an anode and non-metallic atoms. And I see this as a cation as almost Catholics, churches, cathedrals related to religion, and the Father, which is related to gold crosses and other metallic objects. And then the anions related to pagans, mother, nodes, stones and trees, non-metal objects such as wooden gems. It seems that these electrical energies are describing the energy's movement from negative to positive, upwards with the nodes and downwards with the cathodes, from positive to negative. Essentially, the two ways to exit the realm seen as heaven or hell, where female or male energy enters and leaves the realms. This may explain why most religions' buildings have a spiral at the top representing the energy coming down. Nations often join unions, and also how people from nations often join unions. Think of the European Union and NATO, and how leaders of nations such as Tony Blair have gone from their nation to join a union. It can also be possible to predict whether an atom will form a calcium or an anion based on its position in the periodic table. And just quickly covering this, he talks about some noble gases, and the noble gases tend not to form ions due to the arrangement and electrons. They're generally unreactive. Noble gases remind me of the gods. The gods don't interfere. They're helium, neon, argon, krypton, enion, and radon. And there's 7 of them, which is a very common number. And obviously the names are often mentioned in various things as well. You've got Helios, Neo, Argon, or Agar. Z is very popular in Chinese culture. And then the gods would represent the higher parts of the periodic table, and the periodic table ultimately representing the whole of creation, going from the top to the bottom to the mineral kingdom, giving you an understanding of everything. There is so much to cover in this. It's so hard to get everything in, especially because it's scientific and hard to understand. Now, there's 2 types of batteries: rechargeable batteries and non-rechargeable batteries. If the realm was a battery, it would be a rechargeable one, and they tend to basically lose their power after a while before it resets itself and recharges itself. And we often speak about resets and the realm having depleted itself. And this makes sense when we think of the past. If there was magic and other things that could happen, why can't it happen now? It's due to the loss of this energy within the realm as it's been depleted. But after a reset occurs, it will regenerate itself like a rechargeable battery. We seem to be present in this rechargeable type of battery, and it follows a cycle of returning back to itself in the beginning. When it does, ultimately, it will give us a different type of world. I found neutrinos interesting, but I didn't really have time to go into them. A neutrino is a particle, but it's made of smaller pieces, and you can pass through things. Neutrinos are among the most abundant particles in the universe. They are also extremely difficult to detect. It reminds me maybe on our level of supernatural or extraterrestrial things, unseen objects that come into our space. It's funny, in our world now there are unseen forces and things undetectable to the common eye, but we still know they're there. They play a role in the universe and something higher than us, and we ask the question, they are part of the greater body also. With all this said, you've got to ask the question, if we are but cells in a greater body, just like our cells in our body, what is life? If we are a cell in a body but perceiving the world as we do, does this mean that our cells in our body follow a similar reality, in terms of they see themselves as similar to us, with a whole universe and realities taking place inside that? Touching on Maya and the illusion, the veil, which I haven't covered in this video, this would be exactly what that is. We are perceiving reality in a way that isn't exactly true. What if we perceive reality the way we do, but we are simply lights or cells moving around the system, objectively completely different to how we perceive? I've often had meditation and dreams around this, how we are energy, considering our reality to be the ultimate truth when it's a manifestation of something else. Thank you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed.